Hello, in this Europe Rendezvous, I'm in Italy, once known for its chaotic politics and its ever-changing governments. But now, Giorgia Meloni is about to become the longest-serving Italian Prime Minister since the end of World War II. But that much-vaunted stability comes with some dark undersides. From electoral and judicial reforms to putting pressure on the media, Meloni is accused of making an authoritarian turn while the EU turns a blind eye. Meloni has led a rather strained coalition, very much on the right, consisting of Brothers of Italy, her party, Forza Italia, the party of the late Silvio Berlusconi, and Matteo Salvini's The League. Well, Renaud Lefort has this profile of Italy's first female Prime Minister.
Sono Giorgia, sono una donna, sono una madre, sono italiana, sono cristiana.
Giorgia Meloni, the first female Prime Minister and the leader of an unapologetic radical right. At 19 years old, she was a member of the post-fascist National Alliance.
Moi, je crois que Mussolini, c'était un bon politicien. C'est-à-dire que tout ce qu'il a fait, il a fait pour l'Italie.
Silvio Berlusconi appointed her Minister for Youth, but she outflanked him on the right and founded the Brothers of Italy in 2012. Once in favour of leaving the EU, she became more pragmatic over time, but she remained a populist, in tune with Donald Trump's MAGA movement.
We are trying to do our best, but I think we can do it even better together.
Her mentor, Gianfranco Fini, explains the ideological affinity.
She wanted to have a dialogue with Mr. Trump because both MAGA and the Italian right don't like woke culture.
But Trump turned on her, saying Italy wasn't helping in his war against Iran. Then he provoked Meloni at the G7, claiming she had begged him for a photo. And when the US president lashed out at the Pope, that was beyond the pale.
Allies, not subjects.
Meanwhile, at home, she's been accused of trying to bring judges, the media, and the electoral system under her control.
Italy is divided into two camps, 45% on one side and 45% on the other, so she cannot just do whatever she likes. But yes, there are definitely reasons to worry. She's brought public television and radio under her control in a very tribal, almost violent way.
In Europe, centrists and progressives view Giorgia Meloni with trepidation. They see her conservative far-right coalition government as an unwelcome model for the rest of the EU.
I'm now at the famous Roman arena in Verona, and this area historically was a stronghold of the Northern League, as it was called. Now it is simply called the League, and it is part of that three-way coalition government here in Italy. And I'm meeting Paolo Borchia, a member of the European Parliament. He's a member of the League and also a member of the Patriots for Europe group, which also includes the French Rassemblement National or National Rally. Hello.
Hello, welcome to Verona.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Paolo Borchia, has it been a success or a failure, this coalition, considering that there's been a lot of infighting on key issues, differences on Ukraine, tax, energy, gas, etc.? What would you say to all of that?
We have a stability, and historically speaking, we have never used to see the Rome government as one of the most stable all over Europe. But if we have a look to Madrid, Berlin, or Paris, we see that maybe there are some troubles, and so for this time, good news from Rome.
Your party had 34% in the European elections. It's now polling at about 6%. Do you think being in this coalition has been damaging to the League?
I think that the moment with an historical change was our decision to support Draghi government. It wasn't a decision understood by our electors, and now we are we are working for coming back to better percentage than now.
Okay, let's talk a bit about some of the League's position. So Mr. Salvini, he's repeatedly questioned the wisdom of Western sanctions on Russia. So just to be clear, the League would like to see a normalization with Russia right now.
Well, to be very concrete, after 20 packets of sanctions, we've never seen the end of the conflict. If one measure is not working, we should be able to analyze alternatives. We are perfectly aware that in this conflict there is one aggressor, and it's called Putin. So we are trying to face this conflict with equilibrium, with a common sense approach. Well, just be aware that this region, Veneto region, had 1 billion of exchange with Russia and Ukraine before of the conflict, and so
in trade you're talking about?
In trade with Russia and Ukraine. This region is suffering a lot from this conflict.
We've had these terrible heat waves in Europe this summer, including in Italy, excess deaths from heat domes and so on. But Mr. Salvini has said that climate change is basically a left-wing narrative, and also the League abstained from ratifying the Paris Agreement on climate change in the Italian Parliament. Do you slightly regret that now?
Europe is responsible for 6-7% of greenhouse emissions at the global level. So it means that Europe is not the main responsible, but we have the worst laws in terms of competitiveness. I mean, a Green Deal maybe is a good idea on intentions, but if we have a look to the consequences, we have many enterprises, many industries that are afraid of this Green Deal and would like to run away from Europe.
Just on one final dimension, the Oversight Committee overseeing RAI, the public broadcaster, a cross-party committee, has resigned. Does it point to a problem of media freedom in Italy, do you think?
No, this is more an internal issue to that committee, the Committee of Surveillance of RAI. But in general, the freedom of expression, the freedom of press in Italy is not under threat.
You don't believe that Italy is at odds with the European Media Freedom Act?
No, well, I don't like in general this act because it was a synonym of censorship to me.
Well, speaking of the media, I'm at the Radio Museum in Verona, just next to the famous arena, and a lot of the artifacts here are documenting the life and work of Guglielmo Marconi, the famous inventor of the wireless. And it was that technology that allowed for the rescue of the survivors of the Titanic disaster. The ship sent out an SOS signal, but now it's actually some Italian journalists and media organizations that are sending out a distress signal. Luke Brown has more on that story.
From Mama Rai to Telly Meloni, Italy's state broadcaster's nickname mirrors its decline. The latest crisis, its supervisory board resigned in protest at political interference.
The parliament is going beyond mere oversight. It's actually making appointments, selecting directors, top executives, editors-in-chief, and managers. It means politics effectively controls public television, public radio, and multimedia.
After decades as a senior anchor at RAI, Lucia Annunziata resigned in 2023, saying she couldn't accept the government's meddling. Now she's an MEP.
The government believe this change could be a major change for them, but could be vehiculated only by changing people. Complete change of value, of speech, public speech, everything that has to do with creating a new identity. The right wants to create a new identity.
Italy's media faces many challenges. Government ministers have filed defamation cases against prominent journalists, and Italy has more gagging lawsuits than any other EU country. Italy has also failed to fully implement the European Media Freedom Act, which aims to protect the independence of public broadcasters. For Italy's National Union of Journalists, Meloni is following the populist playbook.
We must be vigilant because Italy risks a transformation of its democracy, shifting from a fully realized democracy to one where rights and freedoms are curtailed.
Rather than face questions from professional journalists, Giorgia Meloni often favours more pliable podcasters and YouTubers. In 2025, she went over 300 days without an open press conference.
This is extremely serious because she has a duty to answer. She has a duty to be held accountable.
That's not the only threat to media independence. In 2025, Francesco Cancellato received an alert that his phone had been compromised by a spyware called Paragon.
We know that Italian Secret Service had Paragon in that period. I can't say the government was spying on me, but I can say that they didn't help me and they tried to cover up the case.
It's way bigger than us, the problem of the spyware. Every one of us will be spied, such as in East Germany with the Stasi. But that was not another democracy.
While Fanpage is independent, much of Italy's private media is partisan. The Berlusconi family's empire still overlapping between TV and politics, threatening media pluralism.
An environment in which a lot of media are not independent undermine your credibility, even if you're independent.
In 2026, Italy fell to 56th place in the annual Reporters Without Borders press freedom ranking, ahead of only Hungary in the EU, amid concerns Meloni's model could easily be replicated.
It's conceivable that in France, for instance, with the forthcoming elections, we could see a kind of collusion between political power and the media, which ends up with journalists facing restrictions on their freedom to report, similar to what happens in illiberal democracies.
Meloni's attempt to control another pillar of Italian democracy, the judiciary, was rebuffed this spring in a referendum despite her media control. She has, though, succeeded in changing electoral law in the lower house of parliament ahead of elections next year.
Next, I meet Dario Nardella, a member of the European Parliament who used to work with Matteo Renzi, a centre-left Prime Minister of Italy.
Is there more pressure now on public broadcasters than there were under previous governments, do you think?
Absolutely, yes. Now the situation is very bad. Right now, all the parliament members of committees in charge to control the public television system decide to leave the Commission in sign of protest against the government. The situation is very concerning because Meloni government want to control all media system, especially in television. And they also have a lot of power in social media. So you can imagine if you combine the two tools, the two media instruments, both television and social media, is a huge power that they will exploit for the next election in 2027.
Do you think that Giorgia Meloni will be able to change the election law in Parliament and get this new system which will allow bonus seats for the winning party? Is this going to happen?
Obviously, she wants to change law to have much more power in the future with the next election. She wants full power. This is an expression already used in the past in a very bad part of European history.
But obviously the left has a problem because there are these big rivalries between the Democratic Party and the Five-Star Movement. Yeah. And if they start running candidates against each other in the next election, the left collectively loses then.
Yeah, we did a big mistake in the past, but we learned the lesson. Now we are working to have a common program, a common base on which prepare the next campaign. Let's think to healthcare politics. And this is one of the priorities that we, all the center-left coalition is putting on the top of the list for the next campaign.
So on all these social policies, you know, housing, healthcare and so on,
yeah.
What do you think of how the post-COVID recovery funds have been used? Have they been well deployed?
The effect, the impact is very negative, terrible. The target was very clear. Investment on clean energy funds, infrastructures, modernization. We are at 30% of the full procedure towards decarbonization target in 2030. Only 1/3. So it's nothing.
And this is while we have this incredible heat wave in Europe this summer.
Exactly. But we continue to have many politicians denialists towards climate change fight. Let's see the leader of Lega Party, Matteo Salvini. And they don't accept the European strategy for green transition, for energy transition. The result is that Italy is one of the most dependent European countries for petrol and gas from other countries like United States, Algeria, or other countries.
So this falling out with Trump, it's not a long-term thing because Giorgia Meloni, she's so dependent on long-term imports of American gas.
This break is a fiction. Meloni was obliged to react to such aggressive expression by American president. The reality is different. The import of American gas in Italy since the beginning of Ukraine war is 233%, so huge quantity. Meloni still is one of the most important partners of Trump in Europe. She's kind of a Trojan horse for Trump in Europe, and this is a big risk for all of us.
We'll leave it there, Dario Nardella. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you. And we'll talk a lot more about that whole strategic and international dimension in part 2 of Europe Rendezvous here in Italy. Stay with us here on France 24.